بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد صدق الله العظيم. Last week we discussed the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, the first companions to accept Islam. We briefly mentioned some of their names and some of their stories of how they accepted Islam and the sacrifices they had to make at the time of accepting Islam. And then the last drilling point that we stressed on, and I'll just mention that before we move on today again, is that just as they made their sacrifice, and their sacrifice was great, and the tongue can sometimes utter it, or utter their stories, or mention their stories, but we can never give justice to the sacrifice they made at the time in Makkah Mukarramah in the early days of Islam. However, one thing we do see is that through their sacrifice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave the success that we see today. Alhamdulillah, in the 21st century, sitting in America, we're sitting here discussing the life of the companions, discussing the matters of deen, discussing the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the keynote that we ended last week's talk was with that behind every success there's a sacrifice. This is the note we ended on last week, that behind every success there is a sacrifice. And the sacrifice we see today in our communities, in the world with Islam, alhamdulillah, we are proud of it, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. It's by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are just used. Allah has used us for this deen, and alhamdulillah we are happy for this. But this sacrifice we see is due to the success we see today is due to the sacrifices that were made by the people before. And likewise, if we want to see sacrifice in the future, or if we would wish for our children or our grandchildren or the youth to come in the future to see the sacrifice or more sacrifice, then that requires for me and you to see more success in the future, that requires for me and you to make the sacrifice today. So this is the note we ended on last week, and today inshallah we'll move on from there, discussing the call of Islam. Last week we were discussing how the Prophet ﷺ was secretly preaching Islam, and all those who accepted Islam came to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ did not directly call anyone towards Islam. But in today's talk, inshallah, we will mention how the Prophet ﷺ, he brought out the call to Islam, brought the call of Islam to the streets of Makkah Mukarramah. And not only in Makkah Mukarramah, it started there, but the call was to the entire world. All those that will come to the Day of Judgment. So this is where we start from. However, in today's talk, there are some very beautiful and actually strong verses in the Quran regarding some of the incidents. So for this, I was actually hoping to read the translation to some of these verses. So inshallah, I have asked one of the brothers, our visitor from Texas, Brother Hamid, inshallah, he's visiting us for the week, so Saturday is his departure, so I asked if he's here in the gathering, so inshallah he can just read the translation. So the verses that will be coming, that I wish for the translation should be read, some of them are a whole ruku, or ruku and a half, basically, may even be 2 pages. But the meaning is what I would like for everyone to concentrate on, myself above all, so we can understand and pick up the messages that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to those people who rejected the call of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that time, and think that do these messages also apply to us? The people changed, but the Quran hasn't changed. The people changed, but the call hasn't changed. The reply and the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't changed at all. So when we're hearing the verses, what should be in our mind is that, that the people changed, but are the claims the same? If the claims are same, is the promise of Allah also the same to the people? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. So, in the early days of Islam, when the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, this is a keyword, okay? Sabiqun al-Awwalun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of them in the 11th juz of the Quran. وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. That Allah is pleased with all the companions, but specifically, the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, the early to accept Islam. The first companions to accept Islam. Because later on what happened was, after Medina Munawwara, the companions moved there, and victory came. Many people began to accept Islam because it was, obviously they did understand deen, but the whole tribe was accepting Islam, so therefore they also accepted Islam along with it. Or the whole family was accepting, so they also accepted Islam along with it. But the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, the first to accept Islam, the unique thing about their Islam was that no one was accepting Islam, and they stood up and accepted Islam. So their iman had a different taste to it altogether. So these people, when they accepted Islam in the early days, the Prophet ﷺ, along with the companions, he would hold his majlis, his gathering in Dar Arqam, in the house of Arqam radiallahu ta'ala. Arqam radiallahu ta'ala, his house was situated on Safa, Mount Safa, near Mount Safa. He was the 10th companion of the Prophet ﷺ to accept Islam. For 3 years, the Prophet ﷺ he spent his time, secretly or undercover preaching Islam to people. People would come one-on-one. He would teach them one-on-one. After 3 years had passed by, and the Prophet ﷺ, even after these 3 years, they remained in Dar Arqam, and he preached Islam through the house of Arqam radiallahu ta'ala until the acceptance of Islam of Umar radiallahu ta'ala. When Umar radiallahu anh, when he accepted Islam, he said, we will not hide with our religion, with our deen. We are proud of it, and we will stand up in front of people. And he brought the Prophet ﷺ along with the companions in Haram. And this was the first salah that was read with Jama'at in Haram. Umar radiallahu anh, he was there, and he said, if anyone dares to stop us, let me see that person. So Umar radiallahu anh, after he accepted Islam, this is when the Muslims, they stepped out of Dar Arqam, and they came into Haram in the different parts of Makkah Mukarramah, and they prayed their salah there. So for 3 years, the Prophet ﷺ, he secretly preached Islam to the people of Makkah Mukarramah. When 3 years passed by, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. That openly call بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ, with what you have been ordered to. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and leave the mushrikeen, do i'rad from them, turn away from them, don't pay attention to them. You do what you're told to do. The people around you may mock you, may joke about you, may even abuse you, and they will try in every possible way to hold down the pressure of Islam. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, your job is to turn away from them. فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ, and openly call to what you have been given. Whatever you have been given, openly call. So now the Prophet ﷺ is standing in a place where there's no sign of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have hundreds of gods everywhere, and they are so deep inside their tradition and their culture. Just as sometimes we see, even we are so deep inside our tradition and culture that if someone gives us Islam or something that's even logical, we refuse to accept it. So this was the same halat and the same situation of these people, that they were so full of their culture and their forefathers, what their forefathers taught them, the traditions, that when a person would stand up and call them towards the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there was no way they would ever accept it. So now the Prophet ﷺ is told, فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, the first verse. And then the second verse that also came along was, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, that now call and warn your close relatives, the second. And the third verse, وَقُلْ إِنِّي أَنَا النَّذِيرُ الْمُبِينَ, that say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I am a clear warner. Because I am here to warn you, and it's clear. I am here to call you towards what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes for His servants to be on. So when these three verses were revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the very famous incident, Abu Nu'aym, Ibn Ishaq, Imam Bayhaqi rahmatullah alayhi, they all narrate this incident. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he stood on the Mount of Safa, and he called all the tribes of Makkah Mukarramah, and he said to them that and everyone gathered together. Now when a person would stand on the mountain, it was a danger alert. It was an alert. The reason why was because Makkah Mukarramah was surrounded by mountains. And if someone was coming inside Makkah Mukarramah, was there any way to see them? No. Because the mountains were barriers. So if a person was on top of a mountain, and he was calling everyone, usually he had to make a very important announcement, or he was going to warn people that there's someone coming to attack us. So everyone quickly gathered, they left their business, they left everything, they came outside their houses, they came around the Prophet ﷺ. Now when they gathered around the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ, first thing he said to them was that, if I told you that on the other side of this mountain, there's an army prepared to attack you, would you believe me or not? So the people say that if there was anyone we were to believe, it would be none other than you. You are a Sadiq, Al-Amin, the truthful, the trustworthy. We have no reason to doubt you. So the Prophet ﷺ says, I warn you of something that lies after this life. Something that is called Yawm al-Qiyamah, the hereafter, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he began to give them the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he gives them the message, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, the chacha as we would say, okay? The paternal uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, his father's brother, Abu Lahab, he stood up. And he said to the Prophet ﷺ, تَبًّا لَكَ أَلِهَذَا جَمَعَتَنَا, that you wasted our time. Is this why you gathered us, to give us this joke? To waste our time? When he said this, what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses of the Quran. تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبٍ. Inshallah, the brother would have said the translation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the All-Merciful, the Mercy-Giving. Perish the hands of Abu Lahab, and perish he. Never shall his wealth avail him, nor all that he has earned. He shall roast in the flaming fire in hell. And shall his wife, the stealthy carrier of the thorny firewood, on her neck shall be a prickly rope of palm fiber.
This is the translation to the verse that we commonly hear in the verses that we commonly hear in the Salat, Surah Lahab. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab, ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab, sayasla naran dhata lahabin wa imra'atuhu hammalatal hatab fi jidiha hablum min masad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you were the first person to stand against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you said wrong things against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I'll actually explain this in more detail. Now after this, when the second verse was revealed, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was told to call his family members. What happened was, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu narrates a hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told me that go and call the family members. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, he called all the family members of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they all gathered together. At the same time, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, gather some food, gather a little meat, and gather some milk. So he got some food together, some meat and some milk. He gathered all three of these things. Ali radiallahu anh said, I got enough for one person, thinking it was for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But however, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the same time called his family members. There were 40 of them present. Amongst them, Abu Lahab was there, Abu Talib was there, Hamza was there, Abbas, the uncles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the other family members. 40 of them were gathered in the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told Ali radiallahu anh that give them the food. So Ali radiallahu anh, he had like a little loaf of meat, just a little meat in his hand, enough for one person. He says, I begin to give each person a little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little. And all 40 people ate from that meat, and there was some remaining. I ate from there, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate from there, and there was also some remaining. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to me, now they've had their food, give them some drink. So I went to each person one by one and gave them the little bowl of milk. There was enough milk only for one person, the second person. All 40 people drank from the milk. I drank from the milk, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam drank, and there was still some remaining. So now when Abu Lahab saw this, he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of the gathering, that this person is showing us his ability in magic. He's showing us his powers in magic. He is showing his magic to the people of Makkah Mukarramah. We don't even want your food. And they all got up and left the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet ﷺ, he remained silent, and the next day he told Ali radiallahu anh, gather them all together again. So they all gathered again at the appointed place. When they gathered together, the Prophet ﷺ said to the people, that I call you towards the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he gave them the message. Now, one thing we see is that just as Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh was the first person to accept the Prophet ﷺ without any doubt, Abu Lahab was the first person to reject the Prophet ﷺ without any doubt. They were like on the opposite sides of the horizon. One person here is Siddiq, the other person is La'een, and a Kadhab, a person that, the adu of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ultimate enemy, the ultimate friend. And we see Abu Lahab was ready to sacrifice everything for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's comfort, and Abu Lahab was ready to sacrifice everything to put the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in discomfort. When he heard that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was calling him to the oneness of Allah, his wife also found out. His wife's name was Jamil bin Harb. Jamil bin Harb. She was a sister of Abu Sufyan. When she found out that the Prophet ﷺ was calling people towards Islam, she was a very angry lady. We've probably seen a few versions in our society too. She was a very, very angry lady and very harsh. So when she heard that this message of the Prophet ﷺ, she went outside, she got a handful of stones, and she began to search for the Prophet ﷺ to pelt the Prophet ﷺ. Now she heard the Prophet ﷺ sitting in Haram. She came to Haram. When she came to Haram, she began to look for the Prophet ﷺ, and she found Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh was sitting next to the Prophet ﷺ. And she sees that this angry lady is walking with stones in their direction. He knew what was coming next. So then he sat a little straight. So this Jamil, she comes to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, and she says, where is the Prophet ﷺ? She says, if I see him, I'm going to stone him. And she left. So then Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh returns to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Prophet of Allah, you're sitting next to me. How did she not see you? So then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a veil in front of her eyes that she couldn't see. And then she made it her responsibility that she would, gather thorns and she would tie them together and throw them in the pathway of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore the Quran said, وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ فِي جِيدِهَا حَبْلٌ مِّن مَّسَدٍ. That where the Quran curses Abu Lahab, his wife Jamil bint Harb was also cursed in the Quran too. Both of them were cursed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, for both of you is a punishment that lies in the hereafter. So now what happened was these people, the people of Makkah Mukarramah, the people of Quraysh, now Abu Lahab, like I mentioned, every moment, what was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh? He said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that there's three things I love the most. Right? He was sitting in the gathering of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, three things I love a lot. The first thing he says, spending my wealth on you. The second thing, looking at your beautiful face. And the third thing, I am proud to say my daughter is your wife. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha is your wife. Three things he says I love the most. On the other hand, Abu Lahab, on the other side of the horizon, what's he saying? His two sons, Utbah and Utayba, were married to Ruqayya and Kulthum, the two daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Lahab's two sons were married to the two daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Kulthum and Ruqayya radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. When he heard the Prophet ﷺ calling to the oneness of Allah, his hatred was so much for the Prophet ﷺ, he forced both of his sons to divorce the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. He forced both of them that give divorces to the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ, just so the Prophet ﷺ can face the sadma and the difficulty. And the Prophet ﷺ indeed did cry over this, the pain the Prophet ﷺ felt. But then, however, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ, that a person that does for Allah, Allah always gives them better. And what happened then? Utbah and Utayba went out the window, and who came in next? Uthman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala, the third Khalifa, the son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, Dhin Nurayn, the one who the angels also had sharm and haya from this person. The two base sharm were taken out, and the one who had sharm and haya was brought in their place. Uthman al-Ghani, the one who gave everything in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One daughter, she married Uthman radiallahu anh. The Prophet ﷺ was coming back from the battle of Badr. He found Uthman radiallahu anh burying the daughter. He said he was coming back from the graveyard, he was going to the graveyard burying the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. And then the second daughter of the Prophet ﷺ was also married to Uthman radiallahu anh, and she also passed away. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, if we had more daughters, we would marry them all to you. Therefore Uthman radiallahu anh, his laqab and his title was Dhin Nurayn, the one who had two noors, two lights for the Prophet ﷺ, referring to Ruqayya and Kulthum radiallahu ta'ala, who had the two daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. Now the Prophet ﷺ had some sons. He had two sons, and also in some narrations a third one. When the son of the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Abu Lahab again came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, look how unfortunate is this man. Look how cursed is this person by our lords. He stood up against our lords, he is now going to be cursed until he dies. He will never have a son. Two of the sons of the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and the third son, when he was also passing away, the Prophet ﷺ had tears in his eyes. And then the companion said to the Prophet ﷺ, that how are you crying? So the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put mercy in my heart too. So the Prophet ﷺ was crying, and it comes in the narration, the Prophet ﷺ was crying in a manner, it sounded as if water was boiling in a kettle. This is how the Prophet ﷺ was crying when his son passed away. And this Abu Lahab, he came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he began to call the Prophet ﷺ a person who would never have a male child, in Arabic referred to as abtar. He called the Prophet ﷺ abtar. So when he was saying this to the Prophet ﷺ, when he was mocking the Prophet ﷺ like this, the Prophet ﷺ began to cry and tear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses in the Quran. He's calling you abtar. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. That inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. We have given you the nahar and the fountain of Kawthar. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Pray for your Lord and sacrifice in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna shani'aka, your enemy, this Abu Lahab, he is abtar. He is the one who doesn't have any child. Even though the Prophet ﷺ physically had no sons, but each one of us standing here is proud to say that I am the son of the Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet ﷺ ever asked us to do anything, if there's any hukm, any order of the Prophet ﷺ, each one is standing here to say that I will be the one who carries out the sunnah and the order of the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Lahab, inna shani'aka huwal abtar. He had two sons, Utbah and Utayba. Both of them were destroyed along with their father. Both of them. Abu Lahab, meaning that none of his children, they are remembered till today. And they were destroyed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He finished off that lineage altogether. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now this person, he continuously began to hurt the Prophet ﷺ and cause discomfort to the Prophet ﷺ. So now what happened is the people of Quraysh, they all gathered together. They said, we have an issue. The issue is, we have this person here, who's swearing and saying, not swearing, but he's basically speaking against our lords. The Prophet ﷺ never swore, he was a very kind person in his speech. We'll also see that in some of the incidents coming ahead. But he clearly speaks out against our lords, and he rejects them altogether. So we have an issue here. These are the lords that we worship, these are the lords our fathers worship, and someone is now speaking against them, we can't take this. So they came to the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Talib. They came and they said that your nephew here, we have a problem with him. The problem we have is that he's speaking out against the lords that we worship. So you need to stop him. So Abu Talib, he tells the people, go away, he's doing whatever he wants to do. Very calmly, Abu Talib, he pushes them all away. They all go back home. The Prophet ﷺ carries on preaching his religion, the deen of Islam. More people are accepting Islam. They come the second time to Abu Talib. This time they come to Abu Talib and they say, look, either you stop your nephew, or we leave you, we disown you, we disown your family, we leave everything, and we will now make you our enemy. And only one of the two sides will remain, either our side, either his side. It's your choice now. So now Abu Talib, when he's hearing the people who he grew up with, the people that respected him all of his life, now they're saying that they're going to, basically boycott him and leave him from the community and come against him in battle if he did not leave the Prophet ﷺ. He decided to speak with the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ came home. Abu Talib says to the Prophet ﷺ, "Oh my nephew, have mercy on me, have mercy on yourself. Stop what you're doing, people are going to leave us, we'll be boycotted, no one will have any respect for us. I don't know how long I can keep supporting you." So the Prophet ﷺ, when he hears this, as Manadis Khandavi rahmatullahi, he explains it. Chashma purnam or dil pul gham. that the Prophet ﷺ, when he began to reply back, he had eyes full of tears and heart full of sorrow. And he said to his uncle, Abu Talib, that if the sun is put in my right hand and the moon is put in my left, you can put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand, and you can ask me to give up on Islam and Deen, I will never do that. The only way I'm going to stop is one of two things. The first thing, Islam goes to the four corners of the world. And the second thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes my life. These are the only two things that are going to stop me from preaching this religion. After stating this, he stands up, and the Prophet ﷺ, with tears in his eyes, the narration says, the Prophet ﷺ was crying and he left the gathering. When he was leaving Abu Talib, he called on the Prophet ﷺ and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, "Oh Muhammad, stop. If this is your passion for this religion, then there is no person that will ever touch you." And he supports the Prophet ﷺ. Now one thing we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He orders the prophets to bring the message to the people, the prophets do not only confirm the oneness of Allah, but they also reject anything that is against Islam. Meaning, not only do they do tasdeeq of al-iman, but they also do takdeeb of kufr and shirk. Takdeeb means to reject. Of kufr and shirk, anything that is there of kufr and shirk, they speak out against it. And this is a very unique quality. There are very few people in the community who can actually speak out against the wrong. Every person can say, this is right, this is right, this is right, this is right. But there's very few people who can actually speak out against the wrong. And this was the message of the prophets. The prophets not only spoke the truth and not only called people towards good, but they also spoke out against that which was wrong. And this was the problem the Quraysh had with the Prophet ﷺ. That the Prophet ﷺ was calling people towards the oneness of Allah, and at the same time, he was speaking against their idols, saying that what these idols you worship, they are all wrong, all false, don't worship them, don't bow down in front of them. They can't give you anything, they can't even take care of themselves. Come and worship Allah. Allah will take care of you. Allah will take care of all of your desires and needs. So now the people of Quraysh, they come to Abu Talib the third time. This time when they come to Abu Talib, they say to Abu Talib that you seem to have a lot of love for this Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to make a deal with you. The deal we will make is that we'll trade. We'll give you a very handsome, intellectual, wealthy, well-respected, very fluent in his Arabic, very fasih in baligh, well-spoken in his language, eloquent in words, in conversation. We will give you a perfect, ideal son. Powerful, strong, a son that you can keep, a nephew that you can make of yours. His name is Amara bin Wahid. You keep him, in return give us the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abu Talib says, if I give you the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are you going to do? They say that we're going to kill him. Na'udhu billahi min dhalik. So Abu Talib said, whether you were to kill him or not, there's nothing in the world that can ever price or match my Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though he was a nephew, but however he grew up in the house of Abu Talib at the end of the day. And Abu Talib treated him as if he was his own son. So Abu Talib clearly rejected. He said, no, I'm not giving you. No, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, take your offer and go back. So now the people, they begin to pressure Abu Talib that make the offer, accept the offer, accept the offer. Abu Talib clearly rejected that. I'm not going to accept any offer. I'm not going to accept any trade-in for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the people of Quraysh, after they saw Abu Talib rejected his offer, they clearly came and openly came against Abu Talib. Any Muslim that was found, any weak or poor Muslim they found, they began to torture him. Openly torturing them. All the Muslims across Makkah al-Mukarramah are being tortured. So now Abu Talib, he turned towards his clan, Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib. He turned towards them and he said to him that, look, people are oppressing those that have done nothing wrong. What did they do wrong? Was their fault that they believe in one Allah only? They believe in one Allah, is that their fault? So then he said to the people that you must help against the people that are oppressing them. So the Banu Hashim and Banu Abdul Muttalib, they stood up against their oppressors, against the people of Quraysh, and they fought back. All the clan fought back except for one person whose name was Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab was the only person who refused to take part on the side of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and he stood in the opposition of the Prophet ﷺ. And his hatred towards Islam and Deen was such. This person so deeply disliked Islam and Deen and the truth, that even though he had a teacher like the Prophet ﷺ, his hatred was such that even that couldn't change this person. Even though he had a teacher like the Prophet, the one very important nukta we learn here, very, very important point, that it's not always about the teacher. The teacher can give his attention, but inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. The rule of Allah is that no person can ever change until he makes his own step first. You can have the biggest shaykh, the biggest teacher. You can say, I had the greatest teacher in the world. But however, if you don't take the step first, there's no one that's going to change you. You can complain all day and night, I don't pray salah, I don't pray salah, I don't pray salah, I don't pray salah. But until you don't set your alarm and stand up in the morning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never give you the ability to pray salah. So the same thing, Abu Lahab now, he not only did not take part on the side of the Prophet ﷺ, but he began to speak against the Prophet ﷺ. There were the famous markets that took place, the very, very famous conventions they would have, as we have our conventions, they would have their conventions, the great markets of Suq al-Iqad, where everyone would gather together and they would buy and sell, a very big market that would take place. So now the Prophet ﷺ, he would walk through the market telling people, Ya ayyuhan nas, qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. O people, say one Allah and you will be successful. Say one Allah, you will be successful. Now the companion, he says, the person narrating the hadith, he says, I saw the Prophet ﷺ walking into the market saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. O people, say one Allah and you will be successful. And right behind the Prophet ﷺ, I saw one person saying that this person is a liar, this person is a liar, this person is a liar. Na'udhu billahi min dhalik. So then he said, I asked people, who is this person? I found out this person was Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. In another narration, Tariq bin Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala, he says that he not only was rejecting the call of the Prophet ﷺ and speaking against the Prophet ﷺ, but at the same time, he was throwing stones at the Prophet ﷺ until I saw blood flowing from the ankles of the Prophet ﷺ. So this was a hatred that this Abu Lahab had for the Prophet ﷺ. Now, the people of Quraysh, when they realized that so many people were accepting Islam, and there was no stop to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there was no stop to the sincerity of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no way they can do anything, and at the same time, the season of Hajj was coming. Now at the season of Hajj, people from across the world, they would come to the house of Allah, especially the Arabian Peninsula and the Arabian countries. People would come to the house of Allah and perform the Hajj there. Now if people come for Hajj and this person standing here saying, one Allah, one Allah, one Allah, they're going to have a problem. What if everyone accepts? How are they going to stop it? How are they going to accept such a big flow, such a big wave of people falling into the fold of Deen? So now they all got together and they went to this person's house, Walid bin Mughira. He was one of the older, the Quraysh, one of the older kuffar. So he was old in age and they came to him. And they said to him that we have to solve this. And what we want is, because you're the elderly person in our community, we bring the case to you. Whatever you decide is what we'll do. Walid bin Mughira, they say, whatever you decide is what we'll do. So Walid bin Mughira says, before I make my decision, why don't you guys tell me, what do you guys think? So one person says that I think the Prophet ﷺ is a sahir, meaning the Prophet ﷺ is a sahir, meaning a magician. So Walid bin Mughira says, I've lived a long life, and I've met many magicians. The Prophet ﷺ is no magician. So then the second person says that he is a kahin, a fortune teller. Walid bin Mughira again says, there's no way in the world this person can ever be a fortune teller. A fortune teller, 99 lies mixed with one truth. And him, 100% truth. You can't call this fortune telling. So now then the third person says that he's majnoon, he's insane. So then Walid bin Mughira says that if this person is, if he's insane, then how can he be so eloquent in speech, and not only in speech, in his character? His character showed that he's the most sane person in this country. And then they say, okay, if he's not a sahir, if he's not a magician, if he's not a kahin, if he's not a majnoon, if he's none of these, then he must be a sha'ir, he must be a poet. So the Walid bin Mughira again says that no, he is no poet either. This person has something unique with him. And he more or less accepts the call of the Prophet ﷺ and understands. He doesn't accept shahada, but he understands the true message that the Prophet ﷺ has brought along with him. He understands and he explains it to the people that what the Prophet ﷺ has is something unique. But at the same time, even though seeing the truth, he rejects it. And then he says to the people, we will say, let's make a plan, and every single one of us here will from now on claim the Prophet ﷺ as a magician. Every one of us. Every person here will claim the Prophet ﷺ as a magician. They knew the truth. But yet what happened? He clearly rejected it, and all of them stated together that we will now from now on say with one tongue, with one voice, that the Prophet ﷺ is a magician. And what they did now, they had people standing in every pathway that entered Makkah Mukarramah calling out that there is a magician in Makkah by the name of Muhammad ﷺ. His magic is such that he can basically push away a husband and a wife. He can part a husband and wife. He can break their love. He can break their marriage. His magic is such that he will break away a father and a son. His magic is such that two brothers that live their life together, he will also break them away. So now if a person hears that, if I hear that there's a magician, he breaks away a husband and wife, which person would even go near him? His marriage can come to an end. If a person hears that there's a person in Makkah Mukarramah who is doing such magic that he puts hatred between a father and a son, who will go near him? Now this was this person's intention, to badmouth the Prophet ﷺ, Walid bin Mughira. But what happened then? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he saved the Prophet ﷺ from their makr and from their planning. And at the same time, what happened when they would call out the name of the Prophet ﷺ, a shuhrat, and an advertisement came out of the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning people were advertising the name of the Prophet ﷺ. So when a person, they say in Arabic, there's a famous saying, Al-insanu harisun fima munya. Al-insan harisun fima munya. The human being always craves for things that he's been stopped from. The human being always craves for things, the youth always say, I know it's haram because it tastes good. So, the human being, al-insanu harisun fima munya. The insan is always craving for things that he dislikes, that he has been prohibited from. Now when they hear that there's this person that we're not supposed to go near to, now what's going to happen? They're going to go close to the Prophet ﷺ to hear, what is this person made of? What is his magic? If when someone tells you that there's a person that hypnotizes people, or there's a person that's really good at, boxing, or there's a person that hypnotizes people. Let's take this example. Boxing, we're all cowards now. But there's a person who hypnotizes people. So what happens? You say, I bet you can hypnotize me. So one by one, what happens? You come and you test that. Is he power enough to do it to me? And before you know it, you're knocked out too. But this was no shi'r, this was no sihr, this was no junoon, this was no kahana. This was the word, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلُ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ ذِي قُوَّةٍ عِنْدَ ذِي الْعَرْشِ مَكِينٍ. This was the word that came from the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through Jibreel alayhi salam, directly to the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So now what happened was, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Mudaththir, that this Walid bin Mughira, he understood the truth. He saw the oneness of Allah. He understood the message of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but yet he refused to accept. We understand that Islam is a true religion. No person sitting here will ever reject Islam as a true religion. Every person will accept. But why is it that when we accept Islam as a true religion, when someone tells us that this is the pathway of the Prophet ﷺ, as a Muslim you are required to live like this, we still reject? It kind of, it's kind of like they kind of run parallel to each other. This person was rejecting to accept the Prophet ﷺ in Aqidah, and we refuse to accept the Prophet ﷺ Sunnah. What happened to this person? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Mudaththir,
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the All-Merciful, the Mercy-Giving. So leave such a one to me who I created alone, and to whom I granted extensive wealth, and gave sons to behold, and for whom I paved a smooth way of ease. Yet does he dare hope that I should add more while he disbelieves? No, indeed, it shall not be. For most surely he has been obstinate towards our revealed signs. I shall burden him with ever-mounting punishment. Indeed, he thought ill of God's messenger, and then determined to suppress it. Hence he is destroyed. For how he then determined. And again he is destroyed. For how he then determined. Then he considered God's revelation. Then he frowned and he scowled, and turned away and grew arrogant, and said, This Quran is nothing but sorcery, acquired from the ancients. This Quran is nothing but the utterance of charms from a mortal. I shall roast him in Saqar, deep in hellfire. Do you realize what Saqar is? It spares none and leaves none. It chars mortals.
SubhanAllah, we see the verses, how powerful these verses are. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to this Walid bin Mughira, this person, that the punishment for this person. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا وَبَنِينَ شْهُودًا وَمَهَّدتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ كَلَّا. That I gave him everything, but yet he refused to accept the oneness of Allah and everything. And then ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ, and he wants more. So what happens? The human, he rejects the call of Allah. He rejects the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He refuses to follow the pathway of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then what happens? ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ. Then he says, Oh Allah, give me more. Oh Allah, give me more. Allah says, how? كَلَّا إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِآيَاتِنَا عَنِيدًا. The message was in front of him. He pushed it away. What does Allah say then? سَأُرْهِقُهُ صَعُودًا. For this person is the burning fire of hell. إِنَّهُ فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَسَرَ. All these verses, the translation was just recited. سَأُصْلِيهِ سَقَرَ. Allah said, I will enter this person into Saqar. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سَقَرَ. What do you know what Saqar is? لَا تُبْقِي وَلَا تَذَرُ. No person that enters Saqar will be able to stay away from the punishment of that punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These were the verses that were revealed with regards to Walid bin Mughira, the person who understood and saw the message of Allah. But what happened then? He clearly rejected it. Now what happened was the people were trying to get at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Each person had the people who hadn't accepted Islam yet, their hatred against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was such. Their hatred against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was such that they wanted to do something. Now what happened was a person from Makkah Mukarramah, a very famous person by the name of Abu Jahl. He came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Jahl was a person who was one of the staunch enemies of Islam. And Abu Jahl, the famous incident how he passed away When Abu Jahl was in the battle of Badr, when he was passing away, what happened? He said to Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anhu that when you kill me, how should you kill me? Cut my neck from under the shoulders. Make like a U-shape under the shoulders. Don't cut my head off, from the neck, from the shoulder. Make a little U-shape underneath the shoulder. Make like a little curve under the shoulder too. So cut me from underneath. So Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anhu said, you're going to die right now. I'm going to kill you. Why does it matter if I'm going to cut you from there or from here? So he says, so when the heads of the prisoners or those who died in this battle are lined up, my head is above the rest. This was how blind this Abu Jahl was. This is how blind this Abu Jahl was, the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that what is this message that you have? And na'udhu billah, he begins to swear at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's swearing and swearing and swearing. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is turning away. He comes in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's face again, he swears. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam turns the other way. He comes again from this way and he swears. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is trying to turn away and ignore this person. But he keeps swearing and using foul language and swearing and foul language, swearing and foul language. Until the Prophet ﷺ says to this person, he speaks some good words to him. What happens in return? The Prophet ﷺ, what does he do? He speaks good words to him, and he says, I have to go somewhere, pardon me, and the Prophet ﷺ leaves the gathering. When he leaves, the slave of Abdullah bin Jada'an, the female slave, his female slave, she saw the whole incident, the story. Now, at the same time, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Hamza radiallahu anhu, was coming back from his hunting. He was a hunter. So when he was coming back, this slave girl, she went to Hamza radiallahu anhu and said to Hamza radiallahu anhu that, do you know Abu Jahl just abused your son, your nephew? That the yatim, the orphan nephew of yours, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the young child who everyone in Makkah Mukarramah loved, and we took care of him. We basically, we filled our plates of love when we threw around him. Basically, we gave him all the love that we had. And now people are swearing at him. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, when he hears this, he said, he swore at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where is this person? So he begins to search for Abu Jahl. Now Hamza radiallahu anhu, he always had the habit, even before Islam, that whenever he went for his hunting, when he would come back, he would always go to the Kaaba first and thank Allah whatever he got during his hunting. It's a very important lesson. That whenever we score a goal whenever we shoot a ball, whenever we're playing basketball, we shoot something in, or if we're playing soccer, we score a goal, or if we pass an exam, or if we win something, what's the first thing we should do? Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hamza radiallahu anhu is coming back from hunting, and he always had the habit, the first thing he would do is go to the Kaaba, and the Haram, and pray salah and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever he gained during his trip. So now, he's really upset. He's like, I'm going to find Abu Jahl and I'm going to wash this guy out. So when he enters the Kaaba, the Haram, to his surprise, Abu Jahl is sitting there. He goes, 2 in 1, I came to worship Allah and I'm going to split this guy's head open. So he comes to Abu Jahl, he has a bow and arrow. So he takes the bow that was in his hand, he came to Abu Jahl and he smashed it on his head. And when he hit Abu Jahl on the top of his head, Abu Jahl's head, it became very red and bruised up. Now the people that were around Abu Jahl, they all stood up for Hamza radiallahu anhu. Hamza radiallahu anhu was Asadullahi wa Asad Rasuli. Was a strong person, very powerful. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, he had his arrow, he had his bow, he got ready. Like, come at me and I'm going to shoot you guys down. So Abu Jahl, he stops the people, he says, guys, sit down. This is the Kaaba, we don't want to cause a fight here, a war here. I did something wrong, he got me back for it, leave him. Let's see what happens now. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, he tells the people that, look, now these people begin to mock Hamza radiallahu anhu. One person says that he's left our religion. The other person says he's accepted Islam. So Hamza radiallahu anhu, he says, are you mocking me? He said, I goes, till yet I haven't read the Shahada, but just to make you guys happy, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I read the Shahada. And let me see who can stop me from reading the Shahada. And then he heads out from there. He says, I went home. When I left the gathering, Shaitan came to me. And Shaitan began to say to me that by stating that one sentence, you actually just gave away all of your fame, all of your name, all of your status. You gave away everything by the utterance of that one statement. What happens now? What if this is wrong? What if this is a big trap? What if there is no Allah, na'udhu billahi min dhalik? What if the Prophet ﷺ is lying, wa na'udhu billahi min dhalik? Shaitan is dropping all these things in his mind. Now when he's thinking of all these things, he can't sleep all night. He leaves his house, he comes to Haram and he prays to Allah, oh Allah, you are the Lord, you are the God. Whatever you want, guide me towards it. Whatever is right, guide me towards it. If this is the correct pathway, put Iman and Islam deep inside my heart. And if this is the wrong thing, then oh Allah, save me from the shurur of these things. Save me from the wrong of this call. So then he says that when I woke up and I went back home, I lie down and immediately I felt the Iman sink into my heart. He said then I came to the gathering of the Prophet ﷺ and I told the Prophet ﷺ the whole incident. That I hit Abu Jahl on the head, and then to show him the message of the Prophet ﷺ, I accepted Shahada in front of him, And then shaitan came to me in the whole incident, and then the Prophet ﷺ made dua for Hamza radiallahu anhu, oh Allah, give him the roots of Iman. Set the roots of Iman deep inside his heart, so deep that they can never be shaken again. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also grants us the Iman of Hamza radiallahu ta'ala. Now what happened was the Quraysh, for the last time now, they somehow want to take out the Prophet ﷺ. So they come to a person who was known for his poetry, a person that was known for his fortune telling, his sorcery, a person that was known for his magic. He was a master of all the fields that were respected in those days. This person, Utbah bin Rabi'a. They come to him and they say to him that we will send you as our ambassador to the Prophet ﷺ. Go and negotiate with the Prophet ﷺ and talk with him. So this person comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he says to the Prophet ﷺ that the people of Quraysh have sent me to talk with you. Do you want to be wealthy? If you want to be rich, we'll give you all the wealth. Then he says to the Prophet ﷺ that, do you want to be married to a beautiful girl? If that's what you want, a beautiful bride, we will give you the most beautiful lady in our town. And then he says to the Prophet ﷺ, do you want fame and status? If you wish, we will make you the leader of Makkah Mukarramah. Whatever you want, take, but leave this Islam that you're calling people towards. Stop causing tafriqah and groups in our community. The Prophet ﷺ says that your wealth cannot help me. My wealth is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the hereafter. Your women are nothing, they die one day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reward is by Him. Your fame and your status will die within a few years. When your generation passes away, there goes the names of all the people who are the rulers of Quraysh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَنْ كَانَ يُرِيدُ الْعِزَّةَ فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. Whoever wishes honor and respect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who owns honor and respect. So then he said, you can't give me anything. Allah gives me everything. And then now in return, he begins to call this person towards Islam. He's calling him towards the oneness of Allah, until the Prophet ﷺ recites the verses of Surah Hamim Sajda. The Prophet ﷺ recites to him, the Prophet ﷺ begins to recite the verse of Surah Hamim Sajda. He's reciting and reciting and reciting, until he comes to the verse, فَإِنْ أَعْرَضُوا فَقُلْ أَنذَرْتُكُمْ. That if you turn, now this Rabi' bin Utbah bin Rabi', he was sitting back like this, listening to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was shocked. When he was hearing the verses of the Quran, he was shocked. His hands were behind him, he was leaning on both of his hands behind, and he was listening to the message, and he was shocked by hearing the eloquence and the power in these verses. And then when the Prophet ﷺ came to the verse, فَإِنْ أَعْرَضُوا فَقُلْ أَنذَرْتُكُمْ صَاعِقَةً مِثْلَ صَاعِقَةِ عَادٍ وَثَمُودٍ. That if they turn away from you after you give them all of this, then tell them, I warn you, just as the loud scream, the sa'iqah, the loud scream that came into the people of Ad and Thamud, their punishment that came, I also warn you of a punishment that comes like this. When he heard this Utbah bin Rabi', he sat up, he put his hands on his ears, and he said to the Prophet ﷺ that have mercy on us, don't make this dua, what if Allah's punishment comes in? And then the Prophet ﷺ, he recited the verses until he finished off. The Prophet ﷺ, he recited the verses until he finished off. He did the sajda. There's a sajda in Surah Hamim Sajda. And after performing the sajda, the Prophet ﷺ, he read the verses. And after finishing off the gathering, the Prophet ﷺ said to him that it's your choice now. The Quran is here. It's your choice. Now it's your turn to make the choice. This Uqbah bin Rabi, he came back to the people. And he said to the people that his message is so powerful. And now he came as an ambassador on behalf of the Quraysh, on behalf of the Kuffar, but now he's in two minds. And he begins to speak good words regarding the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Jahl says to the people that this isn't the same Utbah that we sent. This isn't the same Utbah that we sent. So Utbah then gives him the message. He says that, look, even though I'm in two minds myself regarding this message, but whatever he's saying, the words, the Quran that was revealed is very powerful. And what were these verses that were recited? The first verses of Surah Hamim Sajda.
In the name of God, the All-Merciful, the Mercy-Giving. Hamim. This is a revelation sent down from the All-Merciful, the Mercy-Giving. A book whose verses of heavenly guidance have been made lucidly distinct, as an Arabic Quran, for a person who would know and give heed. It is a heavenly recitation that is a bearer of glad tidings, of the good life and the everlasting reward, and a forewarner of God's nearing judgment. Yet when it is received, most of them turn away from it, for they do not truly hear its message. Thus they say, our hearts are ensheathed against what you are calling us to. In our ears, moreover, there is an utter deafness to it. For between us and you, there is an impenetrable veil. So do as you will. We shall indeed do as we see fit. Say to them, O Prophet, indeed I am only a human being like you. Revealed to me is that your God is but one God. Therefore seek for your own souls the straight way to Him. Moreover, seek His forgiveness. For woe to those who associate gods with God, those who do not give the zakat charity, and those who are disbelievers in the hereafter. As for those who believe and do righteous deeds, For them is the hereafter. There is an unfailing reward awaiting. O Prophet, say to those who associate partners with God, do you truly disbelieve in the one who alone created the earth in a span of 2 heavenly days? And do you set up rivals to him in his divinity? This is the sole creator, Lord of all the worlds. Moreover, it is he alone who has set therein anchoring mountains, towering above the earth, to balance it as it spins. And it is he alone who bestows abundant blessings in it, and decreed therein all its sustenance. All this has he done, in a span of 4 equal heavenly days. This do we reveal for those who inquire into creation. Then he directed himself towards the heaven, while it was yet smoke. Then he said to it, and to the earth, come into form willingly or unwillingly. They both said, we come willingly. So he determined them as 7 heavens, in a span of 2 more heavenly days, revealing within each heaven its own natural and spiritual order. Moreover, we have adorned the nearest heaven with lights, and thereby it is safeguarded as well. Such is the mighty decree of the overpowering one, the all-knowing. But if they who disbelieve turn away, then say to them, I forewarn you of destruction, of a thunderbolt, like the thunderbolt that struck the peoples of Ad and Thamud. Behold, the messengers approached them from before them and from behind them, and in every conceivable way saying, worship none but God. Yet they only say, had our Lord so willed to send us heavenly guidance, most surely he would have sent down angels as messengers. Therefore, in all that you have been sent to, we are inveterate disbelievers.
So these were the verses of Surah, these were some of the verses that Utbah bin Rabi heard from the Prophet ﷺ, and also changed his heart. Again, the verses are very applicable to ourselves. We can easily apply them to our lives, and inshallah hope that we can change our lives through the verses of the Quran. And finally, the last incident that I want to hint towards before we end today's gathering. So basically, the Quraysh kept coming to the Prophet ﷺ with new proposals, saying that, let's stop it this way, let's end things this way, this is another treaty that we have, coming to Abu Talib multiple times, then coming to Walid bin Mughira and trying to, cause, false propaganda against the Prophet ﷺ, and then sending Utbah bin Rabi to the Prophet ﷺ and trying to make him tie a deal with the Prophet ﷺ. Finally, the people of Quraysh, they all come together to the Prophet ﷺ. And they say to the Prophet ﷺ that you should stop speaking bad against our lords. So then the Prophet ﷺ says that I will speak the truth. So then they say that if this is what she will speak of, then the second proposal that we have to you is that if you won't stop speaking bad against our lords and speaking against them, then how about we set a treaty that 1 year everyone will worship our lords and 1 year everyone will worship your lords. What we'll do is, 1 year everyone will worship your God, then 1 year everyone will worship our God. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say regarding this in the Quran? قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ قُلْ, say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, all those who do not believe in Allah, لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ, I will never worship what you worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ, and you will not worship what I worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُ وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدتُّمْ وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. Same thing again. Now I will not worship what you worship, you will not worship what I worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. You have your path, I have my path. And what happens to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? يُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. The path of Allah always comes above everything else. The word of Allah always comes above everything else. So today's gathering we end here. Kind of summarizing what we studied today, and inshallah we'll carry on next week. That the Quraysh, they came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with different proposals. Look at this. It's like how last time we were speaking that when there was internal battle that took place against some of the companions. When these internal battles took place, the Romans, they came, who weren't Muslims, they were Christians. They said to one of the sides that, how about we team up together? 2 of the companions, they had their armies and they were fighting. They had a mushajara, a battle against each other. So the Romans, they came to one side of the companions and they said to them that, how about we assist you and we overthrow the Khalifa together? Both armies join together and let's overpower the Khalifa and knock him over to the ground. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh. So what did the companions say to him? Ayyuhal kilab, O filthy animals, O dogs, go back to your countries, otherwise we'll both come together and destroy you first. Leave our matters to us, let the Muslims deal with ourselves. So the people, they tried to make, deviating offers to the companions and the Prophet ﷺ. Look at these offers that were made. But look how firm the belief of the Prophet ﷺ was. That you can put the sun in my right hand, the moon in my left hand. His uncle Abu Lahab can swear against the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Lahab's wife, his chachi, what happens? She's throwing thorns and pricks in the pathway of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Lahab is forcing his two sons to divorce the daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is saying bad words to the Prophet sallallahu, calling the Prophet sallallahu abtar, a person that cannot have male children. And then after this, the people are saying that he's a sahir, he's a magician. And then what happens? They're saying Abu Talib is saying that have mercy on me, have mercy on yourself. All the pressure that's coming from every direction onto the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the Prophet ﷺ is being sworn at by Abu Jahl. And all these things, but how does the Prophet ﷺ turn back in return? قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُ. Same message. One Allah, one Allah. If you say it, you're also successful. So this should be the attitude of every single believer. That whatever people say, our iman is with us. We should be proud over our iman. That no matter how many offers people give to us, that we have culture, we have society. People can tell us that, I'll offer you style. You think you want to be cool? Let me offer you my style. Their style does not mean anything. The style that actually counts is لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, the style of the Prophet ﷺ. We should never accept anything from other people. Why should we be deviated by the styles of other people, by the teachings of other people, when they are trying to misguide us? When the Prophet ﷺ has given us everything. Don't we see this message in the life of the Prophet ﷺ? How firm he was. And that people are coming from every corner, kind of push him. But how strong was his pillar? How strong was this single man? That there's no one that can push away the Prophet ﷺ. His iman was so strong. And this is how strong our iman should be. And I always remember the incident of Hudayfa radiallahu anhu. And I'll mention this incident in the talk. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, I mentioned this incident many times, and I'll mention it again. That he's sitting with the Persians on the table eating food. They're sitting with the Persians and they're having their food together. Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, a morsel from his hand slips and falls onto the table, falls onto the ground. So Hudayfa radiallahu anhu picks up the food from the ground and puts it in his mouth. So the person next to him, he nudges him. He says, "What are you doing?" He's sitting on the table with all the generals of the world. You're sitting with the Persians, the people who rule the world. You're sitting like in the house of, like sitting in the House of Congress. You're sitting with the senators. You're sitting with the president. You're sitting with these great people that, people wait for days for this meeting. People, buy the most expensive clothing just to wear when they come to these gatherings. And you're sitting here picking up food from the ground and eating it? Don't you know manners and etiquettes? So what does Hudayfa radiallahu anhu say to these people? That, أَأَتْرُكُ سُنَّةَ حَبِيبِي لِهَؤُلَاءِ الْحُمَقَةِ. Do you want me to leave the sunnah of my Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for these idiots? My sunnah is the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this was the exact same response of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you want me to leave the message of Allah for the glamour of this world? That could never happen. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. This was the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to benefit. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.